G'day and welcome to Motley Fool, What I've Been Reading, where we sit down with Motley Fool analysts and find out, what they've been reading. Why? Because they're smart, interesting and interested people. And we figure if they find it interesting, if they like it, if they took something from it, we reckon you would too. Now, we've had lots of different bits of content here. We have had shareholder letters, we have had books, we have had research papers. Chris Copley, g'day.
Hey, how's it going, Scott? Yes.
Good, mate. You're going to bring me something, bring us something a little bit different, a very recent and specific piece of content from a company that many of us follow pretty closely. Firstly, tell us, give us a really, really short cook tour of the company, and then tell us what you've been reading from that business recently.
Yeah, absolutely. So the company is Constellation Software. So it's a Canadian vertical market software company, essentially, it's got one of the best track records of any listed company globally, really, over the last couple of decades. It's a great business to learn from, I think, Scott, from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. And you said it was a vertical market. Is that what you called it? Tell our viewers what that is.
Yeah, so vertical market software is essentially where they target a specific industry and they tailor and customize their software specifically for that type of customer, as opposed to the more horizontal, which is probably a lot more of the tools that we're more broadly familiar with, where it might be a CRM software tool that can be applied across all sorts of different industries and businesses. In vertical market software, they're really more specialized and focused on a particular type of customer.
Yeah, in the jargon, a single vertical is a single industry or type, as you say, single execution. Think about horizontal goes across lots of different companies. The individual companies are the vertical companies, the industries. So think about that vertical, very specific for that particular industry or particular business. And actually had an extraordinary amount of success, and yet there is, maybe will be, some concern about the role of artificial intelligence when it comes to the role of software companies, their ability to charge, their ability to stand alone and be different, be unique. What did Constellation have to tell us about the way they are thinking about artificial intelligence, both inside their business and as a threat to their business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is one of the most important things for investors today to really wrap your heads around, not just for Constellation and for software, but, for any business, really, the potential impact that AI can have on the businesses that we own and the industries that they operate. And, this is what they had a specific investor call focused, I guess, on the implications of AI on their business for Constellation. And there are certainly some interesting points made in that call. And I think the most important point to make is that management were very open and recognize that they don't know exactly how AI will play out. They talk about some of the opportunities from AI and, things like, a way to increase programming and coding efficiency, customer support efficiency as well. These are areas that are already seeing quite broad implementation of AI already. They also talk about some of the challenges presented by it for its business model. And then one of the challenges is that output from large language models is not cheap. So currently, much of the adoption of large language model is being subsidized by the companies that are producing the AI models, but it's unlikely to stay that way forever. There's a risk that a very real risk that prices will rise, and that for companies which embed AI features into their platform and into their software, that it becomes a challenge of how do they monetize this, particularly, if the current pricing model for their software is seat-based. So in other words, like per user. So when a user uses AI features in a platform significantly more than another, then it really impacts the costs that are related to each particular user. And for example, can impact the cost of goods sold for the business. So it can potentially make the very historically, scalable SaaS business model less scalable in the future. And another risk that I'll add in is, if there's a dramatic improvement, I guess, in software engineering capabilities and efficiencies driven by AI, will this mean that the increase in efficiency will mean that less programmers are needed and the business will be able to innovate more efficiently, more cheaply? Or will it go to the other end of the spectrum where, lowered costs of software creation will mean that software will become highly customized and resources will increase dramatically. And this could increase competition. For example, instead of needing to pay for external software tools, specialized and customized software tools can actually be built in-house for example, which could disrupt many parts of the software industry. Or, we'll land somewhere in the middle of those two, outcomes. Ultimately, it's very hard to know the answer. We can all speculate, but it's still very much early days. So what Constellation's doing is essentially, they're experimenting with AI, finding ways to implement it into the business, finding ways where it's, adding value already, but they don't feel like there's a need to attempt to predict the future. Rather, continue to test claims, see what works, what doesn't work, and evolve and improve from there. So yeah, I think there are a lot of great takeaways from this call, and I definitely encourage members having a look at it. You can find the call either in video form or in transcript form on Constellation Software's website in the investor relations section.
Beautiful. There's plenty to come. I've got to say too, mate, the only honest answer about the future of AI is we don't know.
We don't know.
So good to hear them say that, right? Rather pretending they do. Everyone's going to have a guess, but the reality is no one actually knows. And there's a lot of, I think a lot of value in the humility of a management team who are prepared to say, we don't know. We're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to make sure we're aware of what's going on and able to respond to it, but no one knows. And I think that's the only honest answer. Mate, you also mentioned at the very end that the call transcript is available on their website. And I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the value of those management call transcripts to the average investor. It's not so much a single thing you've been reading, but it's that particular AI transcript is an example of exactly that. So maybe while we're here, do you want to just kind of give us a couple of seconds on the value of those call transcripts and maybe what investors can get from them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, more broadly, they're a great way to better understand a business, understand management strategies. I think they're a very valuable way to learn and improve an investor as an investor. And I think, if you, just simply go out, find great businesses that have performed exceptionally well over long periods of time, go back through what management has said, learn what their priorities were, what they did well, what worked for them, what didn't work for them over long periods of time, and apply those lessons to help, prioritize what to look for in your own investments. I think that adds a lot of value to you as an investor. So, I think there are some great investment books out there, and I know in future weeks we'll have more books we'll be chatting to you about, but I definitely recommend learning through listening to management as well. So, investor call transcripts are a great way to do that, and pretty much all of them you can find as well. Different financial websites often have them somewhere. Investor relations pages tend to put them on. Often a free Google search can help you find it as well. There are paid subscription tools that can give you access to these things more reliably, but often there are lots of ways to find these transcripts online. For some businesses it's easier than others, but there's plenty available and out there to have a look at and have a read of.
Mate, question without notice before we finish on that one. I'm always mindful, we've talked a lot in the team about the pros and cons of talking to management. On one hand, you get a really nice insight into a business. On the other hand, that the CEO of a company is generally the head salesperson. Either deliberately or subconsciously, they believe in what they're doing, so they're going to give you the rosy kind of good news version of the story. Just unpack just very quickly for us. How do you use a transcript in a way to get the information you're looking for without being snowed, oversold, misdirected? And again, it's not even necessarily intentionally, but how do you separate management speak, management spin, management positivity from the real stuff when you try to digest a transcript that is full of management telling you what they want you to hear?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And it's important, as you said, it's important to recognize that management can often look at their own businesses and opportunities through, rose-tinted glasses. Many management teams, they also use these calls, more as opportunities to sell their business to its investors. Yep. They focus more on the positives. They neglect some of the negatives. So, often threats can be missed or not discussed in these calls. So, these types of transcripts can become more valuable, I think, when you combine it with reading transcripts from other competitors. So where you can hear their thoughts on a similar threat, or, you can read transcripts from other industry participants as well to see and help you understand some of the nuances behind a risk, how that might flow through in a value chain in an industry, or, how a strategy's evolved, or, if a financial result from a business, if it makes sense what their commentary around their challenges in that period are relative to to other participants within the industry as well. I think, as you said, you got to be very wary when you're using one source of information, when that source of information is biased in any particular way. So make sure that you seek out multiple sources and ways to, I guess, justify any thoughts or reasoning behind different things as well. So yeah, that's how I would recommend using transcripts, not just for the businesses that you own, but also for the ones around it as well.
Great advice, mate. Great insight. Thanks for telling us about AI too. Plenty going on there and so much for us to get our heads around. And then if you haven't heard of Constellation Software itself, jump on their website, have a bit more of a look around because it has been a remarkably successful business, one that is well worth your time to follow. Chris, of course, runs our Motley Fool Stars and Stripes service. Spends a lot of time thinking about American business, US business in particular, broader US listed companies. So spends a lot of time there. Not an ad. I don't think we've got it open for sale at the moment. If we do, good luck. If we don't, it'll come up at some point. But that's the sort of expertise he brings to the table and why it is worth thinking not only about investing in the US because of the diversification benefits, but also because there's some great businesses that maybe you haven't heard of or maybe you haven't got access to. We will help you find them if and when that service is reopened. Not intended to be an ad, just that's why Chris has got expertise in this area. And he spends a lot of time thinking about that sort of stuff. And that's why we're bringing it to you, something you probably haven't heard a lot about before, but hopefully has been useful to your investment thinking. Chris, thanks for sharing that with us. Phil, thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the Motley Fool community. Until next time, Fool on.